Pork ribs are often considered a carnivore's dream. Tender, juicy, and flavorful, they offer a rich, satisfying eating experience that aligns perfectly with the principles of the carnivore diet. The fall-off-the-bone texture and the abundance of fat make them an indulgent treat, and for those following a meat-only eating plan, they can feel like a celebration of all things animal-based. However, while pork ribs are undeniably delicious, their consumption comes with several potential health concerns, particularly when eaten regularly and in large quantities as part of a restrictive diet like the carnivore plan. First and foremost, the high-fat content of pork ribs, while part of what makes them so enjoyable, is also one of the biggest concerns. Pork ribs are particularly fatty, with much of the flavor coming from the marbled fat throughout the meat. While fat is a necessary nutrient, the excessive consumption of saturated fat, which is abundant in pork ribs, has long been associated with an increased risk of heart disease, stroke, and other cardiovascular issues. Saturated fats contribute to higher levels of LDL, bad cholesterol, which can build up in the arteries, leading to plaque formation and narrowing of the blood vessels. Over time, this can cause atherosclerosis, increasing the risk of heart attacks and strokes. For those following a carnivore diet, which often includes other fatty meats, the cumulative intake of saturated fats can be dangerously high, potentially leading to long-term cardiovascular damage. Pork ribs also pose a concern in terms of their protein content. While protein is an essential macronutrient, consuming large amounts of it, as is common on the carnivore diet, can put strain on the kidneys over time. The body has to work hard to metabolize the amino acids in protein, and for individuals with pre-existing kidney conditions, or even those who are genetically predisposed to kidney issues, this can lead to kidney damage. High-protein diets have been linked to the progression of kidney disease, as the kidneys are tasked with filtering the waste products produced by protein metabolism. Even in healthy individuals, an excess of protein can lead to an overload of nitrogen, causing stress on kidney function and potentially leading to long-term renal complications. The consumption of pork ribs, particularly when they are prepared with heavy seasoning or sauces, can also contribute to a high intake of sodium. Many recipes for pork ribs involve brining or marinating the meat, often using salt or sodium-rich ingredients, which can significantly increase the sodium content. Excessive sodium intake is a well-documented risk factor for high blood pressure, which in turn increases the risk of cardiovascular diseases, kidney damage, and strokes. The high sodium levels in pork ribs, combined with other salty foods on the carnivore diet, can quickly push total sodium intake to unhealthy levels, especially for individuals who consume them frequently. Long-term overconsumption of sodium can lead to hypertension, which can have serious consequences for heart health. Another potential downside of pork ribs is the impact of their preparation method. Many people choose to cook pork ribs by grilling, smoking, or slow cooking, all of which can result in the formation of harmful compounds such as heterocyclic amines, HCAs, and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs. These substances are formed when meat is cooked at high temperatures, and both HCAs and PAHs have been linked to an increased risk of cancer, particularly colorectal cancer. While occasional consumption of grilled or smoked meats may not be a significant risk, regular consumption of pork ribs cooked at high heat could contribute to the accumulation of these carcinogenic compounds in the body over time, increasing the long-term risk of developing cancer. Furthermore, like other processed meats, pork ribs can also contain preservatives, nitrates, and nitrites, especially if they are purchased pre-seasoned or pre-cooked. These chemicals are often added to enhance flavor and preserve the meat, but they have been associated with an increased risk of cancer, particularly colorectal cancer. Nitrates and nitrites can convert into potentially harmful compounds, such as nitrosamines, when exposed to high cooking temperatures, further elevating the health risks associated with consuming pork ribs. For those who consume processed or pre-packaged pork ribs regularly, these chemical additives could pose an additional threat to long-term health. The environmental impact of consuming pork ribs, especially on a regular basis, is another consideration. Pork production, while less resource-intensive than beef, still has a significant environmental footprint. Raising pigs requires large amounts of land, water, and feed, all of which contribute to greenhouse gas emissions and environmental degradation. For individuals on the carnivore diet who may be consuming large quantities of animal products, the cumulative impact on the environment can be substantial. The production of pork also involves the use of antibiotics, hormones, and other chemicals, which can have negative effects on both human health and the environment. For those who are concerned about sustainability, the environmental costs associated with pork production should be carefully considered. Additionally, the high calorie content of pork ribs can be problematic, particularly for those who are not mindful of portion sizes. While they are rich in flavor and fat, this also means that they are calorie dense, and consuming them in large quantities can easily lead to an excess of calories. If not balanced with physical activity, this can contribute to weight gain and the development of obesity, which in turn increases the risk of a variety of health problems, including diabetes, heart disease, and joint issues. The high fat and calorie content, combined with the other risks associated with excessive protein intake, could also contribute to the development of metabolic syndrome, a condition that increases the risk of heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. Moreover, the restrictive nature of the carnivore diet, which excludes plant-based foods like fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, can exacerbate some of the negative effects of regularly consuming pork ribs. The lack of fiber and antioxidants in the diet can lead to digestive issues such as constipation, bloating, and poor gut health. Fiber, which is essential for maintaining healthy digestion, is entirely absent from the carnivore diet, and relying too heavily on fatty cuts of meat like pork ribs can worsen these issues. Additionally, the lack of plant-based foods increases the risk of vitamin and mineral deficiencies over time, as fruits, vegetables, and whole grains provide a wide range of nutrients that are vital for overall health. In conclusion, while fall-off-the-bone pork ribs may be a delicious and satisfying option for those on the carnivore diet, their regular consumption carries several significant risks. The high fat and calorie content, particularly the saturated fats, can contribute to cardiovascular diseases and weight gain, while the excessive protein intake can strain the kidneys. Additionally, the sodium content, carcinogenic compounds formed during cooking, and the potential presence of preservatives and chemicals in processed pork ribs further increase the health risks. The environmental impact of pork production and the potential for nutrient deficiencies in a restrictive carnivore diet also warrant caution. While pork ribs can certainly be enjoyed in moderation, consuming them frequently or in large quantities as a staple of the carnivore diet may lead to long-term health consequences. Balancing the diet with a variety of animal products and considering portion control are essential steps in minimizing the risks associated with pork rib consumption.